Viewer discretion is advised.
Boom, perfect timing.
"37-year-old Lamonta Gladney rushed outside his home to seek help for his friend. His friend had just passed out and was having trouble breathing. News outlets that covered this case reported that Mr. Gladney had PCP in his system, according to drug tests. With his phone dead and his friend having trouble breathing, Mr. Gladney panicked. Outside, he saw two people on bikes and quickly ran towards them, pleading with them to call 911. The ambulance was the first to arrive on scene. When they arrived, they kept asking Mr. Gladney if he needed oxygen. On the body cam footage, you can hear Mr. Gladney trying his best to communicate to responding officers that his friend was in the house and needed help breathing. At around 1:30 p.m., the body cam footage shows Mr. Gladney walking in circles in the middle of the street. Moments later, you see Officer Tyler Timberlake, an 8-year veteran of the force, walking up behind Mr. Gladney and shooting off his taser. Once Mr. Gladney hits the ground, Officer Timberlake then demands him to roll over. Officer Timberlake puts his knee into the lower part of Mr. Gladney's neck and then begins to taser Mr. Gladney directly in the neck. Back in October of 2020, I was contacted by Nathan Hardy. He explained to me that he is a friend of Lamonta Gladney and that he would be able to facilitate an interview with Mr. Gladney. During our interview, Mr. Gladney would reveal a lot of new information regarding this case. Information that has never been reported on by the mainstream media or made public. Here are a few clips from our interview.
My name is Lamonta Gladney.
My name is Nathan Hardy, and I'm a supporter of Lamonta Gladney.
I think it was like June. It was like in the beginning of June, like 3 days right after the George Floyd case. And I was at a friend's house, and she had passed out. My friend, she was passed out and couldn't breathe. And my phone was dead. My cell phone was dead. So I went outside, and I seen two kids on the bike. And I seen the two little kids. I said, could you please call the ambulance for me? Don't call 911. My friend is in the house dying. She can't breathe. And my phone was dead. So they called the ambulance. The ambulance came. He was talking to him. And I was telling him, like, look, my friend is in the house. She need oxygen real bad. Like, she need oxygen. Can you please go help her? They was worrying about me saying, do I need help? I'm like, no, my friend needs help. She's in the house dying. So that's what made me like wondering, like, if my friend was dead. So that's what made me go on shock and like was paranoid, like she's dead. You get what I'm saying? So when another a cop, he pulls up, he got something under control. He's talking to me. I'm talking to him like, ask me, do I need detox? I said, no, I don't need detox. I just want you to help my friend. She's in this house right here. Like, what house she's in? Come to the house. She still ain't go over there and get it, so worried about me.
What? Yeah.
Hey,
You don't need oxygen?
Why I need oxygen? Why you need oxygen?
Still having a problem. I'm out with one with the fire department. He's walking around in the middle of the street, rambling. Sir,
10 for 3027.
are you doing okay? Do you mind stepping out of the road? Maybe.
No? What can I do for you? Help, man. Okay, I'm here to help you. So just tell me what you need. You want a detox? Yeah. So you want to go to the hospital? Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Or you want to go to the hospital? You gonna, all right. I understand.
They're going to take you to detox. I don't know, man. Sir. Devontae, right?
Yeah, yes.
You want to go to detox?
Yes.
All right, you got to get in the ambulance with them if you want to go to detox.
No. Speak to Didi. Speak to Didi.
Hey, Jenna, what's the address my cat said?
So you don't want to go to detox? Where do you want to go? Would you mind stepping out of the road for me?
No, goodbye, Goodbye.
What's up?
Goodbye.
Beep.
Sabaya Pittman need help. Sabaya Pittman need help. Sabaya Pittman need help.
Where's he?
Sabaya Pittman need help.
Who's
Sabaya Pittman need help.
Sabaya Pittman?
Sabaya Pittman need help. Sabaya Pittman need help. Sabaya Pittman need help.
So do you not want to go to the hospital?
Sabaya Pittman need help. 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 Sabaya Pittman.
Who's Sabaya Pittman?
Sabaya Pittman.
Who's that?
Sabaya Pittman need help bad.
Okay.
Sabaya Pittman need help bad.
And look out for 2 motorcycles racing in the neighborhood. No further in this lookout, 1359.
Yeah.
You'll go with us to the hospital?
Yeah.
You get in the back of the ambulance?
Yeah. Come on.
Hey, you're gonna get in the back of the ambulance, right? No? Is he wanted?
Then Timberlake pulls up. I didn't even see Timberlake pull up, to be honest with you. I just feel myself getting hit with the taser. My shoulder hitting the ground right here, and I feel him on my neck. I couldn't breathe, so I'm telling him I can't breathe. And he kept tasing me, smacked me with the taser and kept tasing me. I couldn't breathe, so they all finally jumped on me. And when they jumped on me, they put the cuffs on me. I still got marks from the handcuffs on my hand and everything.
You got scars.
I got scars, and I'm talking about deep scars from the handcuffs on my hands. So I'm telling them, like, I need them to help my friend. They still ain't even help my friend. They were so much worried about me.
Due to YouTube's strict community guidelines, I'm unable to show you the body cam footage of the gruesome assault. To see the full uncensored extended versions of our investigations, please consider joining our Patreon.
Roll over. No.
Anthony, relax.
Diddy.
Anthony, relax.
Diddy.
Anthony, give me your arm.
Diddy.
Anthony.
Diddy.
Up.
No.
Step it up.
No.
Got you. Got the arm. You're good to get up. I got you. Got the arm. Got him. Come on, man. Calm down. You got cuffs? You got cuffs?
Got that right there.
Arms here under
We're at Fordson and Fordson.
Jackson under your belly. I got him, Jackson. Go ahead. Let's go test him.
I got his shoulder there.
I got him right here. You got him right here. Coming up.
Lamonta Gladney was charged with public intoxication and resisting arrest. But as soon as the body cam footage was made public and went viral on social media, all the charges against Mr. Gladney were dropped. To my absolute surprise, a day after the tasing incident occurred, Officer Tyler Timberlake was charged with 3 counts of misdemeanor assault and battery. When Officer Timberlake was being charged with the felony assaults and was extradited back to Virginia, guess who stepped in to defend Officer Timberlake? The Fraternal Order of Police. They would immediately come up with a defense for Officer Timberlake, basing this assault on mistaken identity.
Is he wanted? Anthony, relax. Anthony, relax.
I'm not sure if you caught that, but right before Officer Timberlake approaches Mr. Gladney and tases him, he yells out the name Anthony. At trial, Officer Timberlake would tell jurors he mistook Mr. Gladney for another man who was wanted for violent offenses. He was also worried Mr. Gladney posed a threat to first responders on the scene and the general public because Mr. Gladney appeared to be on PCP and acting erratically. Tests that were entered into evidence showed PCP and cocaine in Mr. Gladney's system. In our interview, I asked Mr. Gladney about Officer Timberlake's claims of mistaken identity, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah.
And so your real name is Anthony.
My real name is Lamonta. I don't know where you get Anthony from.
Oh, so he's just saying that just to make it
was a cover
seem
up.
it was
Yeah.
That was a
another
cover-up.
cover up. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He knew exactly who I am. To be honest with you, it's not the first time that I told like 2 weeks before that he pulled us over, broke the window, and broke my friend nose, Timberlake. My friend got a lawsuit on him too. When my last name pops up, Timberlake and Chamber, they make their business to come and harass me.
Right after the brutal assault, Officer Timberlake would call in sick to work the next day and leave the state of Virginia to Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And another thing about it, right? After the incident, Timberlake freed the state. Ain't turned his body cam in for 2 days. He called in sick, and then he freed the same state, going to the same state George Floyd got killed in. You get what I'm saying? He ain't turned his body cam in at all. They had to force him, like they had to make him turn his body cam in. So he knew he did something wrong.
Yep.
He knew he was wrong.
So when he fled the state, I guess through evidence and of course a very weak judicial system, charges them with these little charges the cop with misdemeanor charges. So when he flees the state to Minneapolis, which is right where George Floyd situation was going on, which that, if you ask me, that's just too weird. But it wasn't enough to extradite him back, So then finally, I think his lawyer they made it go to circuit court, and then they dropped those misdemeanor charges after Chief Rosner had done his interview.
The body-worn camera video that you observed shows a Fairfax County police officer deploying force in violation of our use of force policies, and they are criminal acts which violate our oath of office, and they ignore the sanctity of human life. I've personally reached out to the victim and spoke with his mother to express my disgust with my officer's unacceptable criminal actions and assured her justice will be served.
And then they seeked felony assault charges on this police officer, and it was enough to get him back here. And to turn it, the man tried to cover it up. It's blatantly obvious. He called in sick, right? Does that man look sick at all to you when, and being combative with a person who needed some help, who was trying to help somebody else who needed some help, and he was confused, if anything, but he was not combative at all.
When the body cam footage was released to the public, there was an immediate mixed reaction on what transpired. When I watch the body cam footage and I see Mr. Gladney, I see a man that was clearly distraught and needed immediate medical attention. I do not see a man that is posing a threat to anyone. Regardless of whether Mr. Gladney was intoxicated on drugs or merely having a mental breakdown, it still does not excuse the actions of Officer Tyler Timberlake.
Hey, can I say something? If I was or I was not, that don't give him a right to do what he did to me, because I wasn't no threat to nobody.
Absolutely.
I wasn't no threat to nobody. I was running about somebody that was dying in the house. I was in my eyesight. I wasn't gonna let her die on my watch, on my clock. So that's what I was worrying about. That's why I was so much not paying them really no mind. Like, I was worrying about this, my friend in the house. She couldn't breathe.
So he voluntarily got himself into a rehabilitation center. Right after all this happened, within a month or so. He wants a good life. He wants a better life for himself. I've watched him do the work personally, being right next to him. He's almost 90 days clean. He participated in rehabilitation with flying colors. That's how he ended up being a really good friend of mine, because he's actually supported me too. But it's when you see an individual like this and your first reaction is violence, the world needs to see that that's not what an active addiction needs. When someone's in active addiction, they need help. They need a rehab. They need assistance, or at least to even be listened to. But not the first thing should not be violence.
Almost 2 years after Fairfax County Police arrested one of their own, a high-profile case of alleged police brutality is finally in front of a jury. Officer Tyler Timberlake is accused of assaulting an unarmed and clearly disoriented black man without provocation. Timberlake's lawyers expect to argue it was a case of mistaken identity. Bruce LaShan is at the Fairfax County Courthouse.
Timberlake's lawyer insisted that tasing and punching or shoving Gladney was well within department guidelines. He says it was the least lethal choice that he had, and that it still took 4 to 5 people to subdue Gladney. Prosecutors say Timberlake is guilty of assault 3 times over. When he tased him, when he punched him, and when he tased him a second time. The trial expected to last the rest of the week.
A jury again saying that an officer on trial for assaulting an unarmed and incoherent black man is not guilty.
Yeah, we were telling you about Officer Tyler Timberlake seen on video using a taser on that man twice.
You know, Officer Tyler Timberlake relieved, overjoyed by this verdict. We have not had a chance yet to talk to Lamonta Gladney or his family, but there were dozens and dozens of Fairfax County police officers upstairs here in the courtroom, packed into the courtroom throughout the trial. And when Tyler Timberlake came out after these not guilty verdicts, they all applauded and cheered.
I'm disappointed in the verdict that we received today, but I have to say I'm not disappointed for myself. I'm disappointed for my black and brown neighbors in this community. I know I don't have to worry about leaving the house as a bald white man every day and worry that I'm going to get confused for somebody else and get treated poorly.
There was, over the radio, there was evidence that they had a male in the street walking around in circles and mumbling. Officer Timberlake was extremely experienced. He was a veteran. He was actually a community police officer. He gave back to the community, but he had also been involved in a lot of arrests for PCP, and he recognized it right away, and he knew one of the other officers there was a rookie. When he was coming up, they made a lot to do with only the body-worn camera. There was also footage from his in-car video, but Officer Timberlake was able to see more than just 10 seconds of this behavior when he was coming up to the scene. And he was able to make his own assessment of the situation, and he knew right away that this individual was possibly a dangerous individual and was clearly under the influence of at least PCP, and later to find out from the hospital records, cocaine. At this time, I'll say he's going to stay with the force, but I don't want to make any other mention regarding IA, what's going on with them, because we don't know yet with that. Officer Timberlake was extremely relieved because from the beginning he's always maintained his innocence and said, I knew what was going on, I did the right thing, I wasn't trying to injure anybody, I was just trying to help and get this person to get the treatment they needed, and that's exactly what he did. Yeah, and I will tell you, Dr. Bozeman, who is one of the top experts when it comes to excited delirium, will say with the taser, because it usually has the neuromuscular incapacitation, it's enough to take the individual to the ground and get them handcuffs usually. The problem with the excited delirium when you're talking with PCP and cocaine is that you don't want to prolong anything because of the fact they're getting the acidosis, the acid levels to go up. And that's kind of what his testimony was. That's why the taser is very effective, because it is not considered a lethal weapon, and they changed it years ago because it used to be back in the day you could keep pulling that trigger. These tasers now have safety methods on them where they will only go for 5 seconds and then they'll cut off. And that's why Dr. Bozeman believed that this was the appropriate steps to address the issue that was before him and to get him the treatment he needed. And as you heard, he was given 250 milligrams of ketamine. That would, the Dr. Bozeman said, would allow him to continue breathing properly, but would also calm him down so his body temperature would eventually go down and he wouldn't go into acidosis and into cardiac arrest.
What I said yesterday was, I believe that if the shoes were switched in this situation, Lamonta would be looking at a life sentence.
Well, not even that.
If not, he'd be dead.
I'd be dead if I tased one of them. They would have shot me dead out there.
They would have killed him.
They would have killed me out there, man. You know, and what he's saying is the truth.
And now this officer wants to cry because he's got a felony assault charge? I think that he should be charged, if not 3 to 4 times more. You know, a man who's supposed to, not only obey the law, but has to put order in it. And when he does such a heinous act as that, he deserves punishment equal to any other person.
In summary, the body camera footage shows Officer Tyler Timberlake firing his taser at Mr. Gladney multiple times. Mr. Gladney was unarmed and not a threat to anyone nearby. Once Mr. Gladney is tased and hits the ground, video shows Officer Timberlake striking Mr. Gladney and again tasing him multiple times. Immediately after the incident, it is alleged that Officer Timberlake fled the state of Virginia to Minneapolis, Minnesota. Officer Timberlake was charged with 3 counts of misdemeanor assault and battery the day after the incident. On March 25th, 2022, a jury found Fairfax County, Virginia police officer Tyler Timberlake not guilty of using excessive force against Lamonta Gladney.
believe if there's any other questions, I think at this time we're going to get back.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
Really appreciate you coming out and talking.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you. Take care. Thanks.
Yep.